What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another the Mods 8 Hardcore Minecraft video. So today, as you guys are aware, we are doing some stuff here with the ATM star, and I wanted to kind of show off where we're currently sitting. So right now we're about 1,200 away from our next 3-time compressed block, and if we come over here to our actual star, you can see we are 5 away from finishing our ATM star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So because of that, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting off with another little easy methodology of understanding for individuals who may not quite grasp what's going on. So I wanted to actually, let me do something real quick. I wanted to, for the meantime, while we're waiting for another stars to finish going through their process, I wanted to just go ahead and start preparing to build a second ATM star, but going a little bit more into detail on the steps to take to build it. So obviously, as you're aware, in the last video, I did say I was more towards the idea of going this route just because this is going to be a time saver. This is stuff that I can do while I am waiting for the nether stars. Obviously, we're not going to build a second ATM star. We're going to primarily focus, or we might build the ATM star, second one, but primarily going to focus on explaining how to create a majority of the items, mostly these middle ones right here, because the Oblivion shard, the Philosopher's Fuel, which is down here, the why did I already forget the name of that one? Why did I already forget the name of that one? So your Dragon Soul. Okay. I don't have it. I don't have a chest for that. So the Dragon Soul, the Oblivion Shard, the Pulsating Black Hole, the Wither's Compass, the Nexium Emitter, the Philosopher's Fuel, the Improbable Probability Device, the Creative Essence, the Dimensional Seed, and the Patrick Star. Those are going to be the ones that I really focus on building. Granted, the Patrick Star is just concrete and concrete powder, so if you don't know how to make that, you may want to just go a different route and look at the JEI, because it tells you pretty clearly how to make that. But the rest of the stuff, it can be kind of confusing. This one right here is probably going to be the easiest one to make for those who have hefty resources. So what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on the Oblivion Shard, which is this bad boy over here. And a couple of things to notate is that a couple of things you're going to need for the Oblivion Shard. So this bad boy right here, you're going to need 2 World Eyes, 4 Soul Steel blocks, and a singular Rose of Oblivion. The Rose of Oblivion can be found in the end. They're spread out throughout the entirety of the end, so you should be able to find that pretty simply. A Soul Steel block is just 9 Soul Steel ingots combined. To make a Soul Steel ingot, you need to take an iron ingot with Soul Powder blocks, Soul Sand block in the middle with a fire. So 4 Soul Powder blocks, a Soul Soil block in the middle, and throw the iron ingot into the middle of that, and that creates your Soul Steel ingot. A good way to go about doing that, a quicker method of that would actually be to grabbing a block of iron and throwing that in with compressed soul powder blocks, which is 9 soul powder blocks put together. To make a soul powder block, it's just you go in here, you do soul powder. So I only have 2, but basically you just fill these 4 in the 2x2. You can do it in your regular crafting right here. You can do 2x2. That'll give you 1 soul powder block. You get 9 of those. You put the 9 all through right here, and that makes a singular soul powder compressed block. And then you need 4 for each of the soul steel blocks, which means that you have to have 4 compressed soul steel blocks and a 1-time compressed soul sand block, which is very, very simple to make. You just grab 9 of these, plop them in there, and that gives you the 1-time soul sand block. And the reason I would go this route is because it's a lot quicker than having to do each individual iron ingot and then having to reset everything kind of afterwards. But you just need to make 4 of these, which we have already done, and we have in our chest here. So to get soul powder, you grab a piece of soul sand, you put you light it on fire, and then you throw glowstone in there. You can throw glowstone blocks to get blocks of soul sand back, or you can throw individual. I'll just show you real quick. So I'll do both. So we'll just grab one of these, and then we'll grab one of these, and then I will come in here, and I will disable all this, and then we'll start with the glowstone dust. You throw it in, you get 2 soul powder blocks. You throw the glowstone in, and you get 8. So then that's how you make your soul powder block. So anyway, so we've already made that aspect. So let's talk about the other pieces that might be a little bit more complicated for newer players to kind of understand. It's the world eye. So the world eye requires 4 obsidian, a spyglass, an environmental eye, which is this bad boy right here, 2 ender pearls, and then a bottled darkness. So to make the, I'll put it this way, to make the world eye, spyglass is pretty simple. You just need 2 copper ingots and an amethyst shard. All right. But then you get to the environmental eye and you see this weird ritual. So this is what is actually a part of nature's aura. And there's this book called the Book of Natural Aura. When you right click it, it brings up this, this menu like this. And a good way to kind of go about it is I personally would just recommend going to the entry index and then finding out what all you need. So the first thing you're going to need in this aspect is to make some brilliant trees. To make brilliant trees, you basically need these brilliant fibers, which are these right here. So you'll need 4 leaves, 4 gold nuggets, and then some grass, which we can do right here. If we do brilliant leaf, we can make a couple of these right here. So you have some brilliant leaves now, and what do you do with them? So you'll notice that these acacia trees, the leaves are a little bit different. So this is what's, you can see at the top, golden leaves. So all you do is you basically take it like you would with like silkworms or bone meal or anything like that, and you just go through and you right click on the individual leaves. And what that will do is that will actually allow you to have it infest the entirety of the tree, which I know that sounds bad, but it's a good type of infest, because once you get it to look like this, you can basically break them apart, and then they will drop what are called gold leaves. Now, gold leaves are, you're going to need them for 2 separate pieces for this ritual. And the reason I know that this is the way that the ritual is set up is when you go back into your book here, you can look for the ritual of the forest and then go through to this screen right here. And there's a little eye down here that if you click, it will actually visualize it on the ground, and then you can left click again and it will plant it as an anchor, and then you can grab all the stuff you need. So what you're going to need for this aspect are 8 of these wooden stands, some gold powder, and then you'll have a sapling in the middle. So for the environmental eye, you'll need 2 gold leaves, a spider eye, and a gold ingot. But you may be asking, well, how do I get gold powder? Do I just like break it up with a hammer, break a gold ingot up with a hammer? No. What you do is you take a golden leaf, plop it right there, and that gives you 2 gold powder. And gold powder is going to be very important because this will basically allow you to create this little design on the bottom, which you're going to need. I don't actually remember the exact amount, but we'll show you here in a second. Whenever I plop down this sapling, you'll see that it will start doing the weird, it should in a second. There we go. You can kind of see like there's a little bit of a gold effect kind of coming up to the sapling. So a good way that we can do this is we can grab some bone meal, which we don't have that many. We can grab some bone meal and we can speed up this growth to a tree. And now you see the gold is basically flowing into the tree itself. And what this will do is it will utilize each of those items. It will not use the stands. It will utilize each of the items on the stands, and it will turn this into an environmental eye. And I'll tell you what the environmental eye does in a second, but let me talk about these wooden stands. To make the wooden stands, you will need a piece of wood, some type of stripped wood or a log or anything, and then a gold leaf that you'll place on top of it, and that will create your wooden stands. So let's talk about what we got to do now. So you just made your first environmental eye, but you want to make a second one because, well, you're going to need 2 for the Oblivion shard, because you're going to need 2 environmental eyes right here. But let's say you don't remember the pattern that you would need. You can click visualize again, and then what you'll do is you'll basically just plop it back down My fault. You'll right click. You'll pop it back down right there, and then that will show you what all you need for this particular ritual. Granted, I mean, the ritual's rather simple to make. So let's make a couple more gold powder here. And then, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you need a total of 16 gold powders. And then that will make that look right there. Next thing we need is our 2 gold leaves, which will plop right there and right there. Our gold ingot, and then a spider eye. And then we'll just plop our good guy right there, and we'll bone mill it and let it grow up to be a big boy. And that will get us our second environmental eye. And this is going to be important. I'll put it this way. The environmental eye is useful for Nature's Aura if you're going to be doing more with the Nature's Aura quest line. By the way, they don't stack. They are charms, so you can technically throw them into a charm slot in your Koros or whatever they're called over here. Or if you put them in your hotbar, you'll see in the top left corner now there is a bar that shows, kind of like goes up and down a little bit. And I'll kind of show you what it does if we go to... Let's go down to the end. You'll see now it is completely black. And that basically shows the variety of the aura that's in the location. But while we're here, another ingredient for the world eye is a bottle darkness. So I have one right here, but I want to tell you how to make that. It's very simple, or how to get that. So what you'll do, you'll come into your crafter and you'll look for a bottle and cork. All it is a glass bottle with some planks. And then that will create the bottle and cork, which is this right here. All you do, right click in the end, and that will actually give you your bottle darkness. So now we have made a couple of the different items that we need specifically for the Oblivion shard. So we can plop these in here. And you also notice they don't even stack in here. Kind of annoying. So the next thing we're going to need is going to be our spyglass. Which, of course, like I said a second ago, the spyglass is rather simple to make. You'll just need 2 of these. They don't stack either, by the way. And then you'll just plop those in there. So let's take account of what all we need and how much we have already. So we have our 4 soul steel blocks. We can make our 2 world eyes by grabbing 8 obsidian. So let's grab 8 obsidian real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we'll need 2 ender pearls, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 per. And then we'll need our 2 environmental eyes, our 2 spyglasses, and then our 2 bottle darkness. And then what we'll do from here is we'll just come back, craft, and then we will plop this back in that order. And of course, it's not going to use the ender pearls and obsidian that's in my inventory. It's going to use what's in my chest. So now we have that. What's next? Well, we need our Rose of Oblivion. Which to get that, we just come in here and we grab this right here. Again, they're plentiful in the end, so should be pretty easy to find. And then you'll just move the items in, and you will create your Oblivion shard. Very simple. So that's one of the many items, and that's probably one of the easier ones to make if you have the resources available to you. Now, let's take a look at our nether stars, see how far we've come. We are 413 short. So now we've made our Oblivion shard. What can we make next that will be relatively quickly? Let's talk about a creative essence. So to create creative essence, you have to basically go through the full list. Okay, well, that's not what I meant to do. You have to go through the full-on list of mystical agriculture. So you have to start with Inferium, get to Prudentium, get to Tertium, get to Imperium, then Supremium, and then you can get to Insanium to then create your creative essence. So what all do you need for your creative essence? That's very simple. You need 4 Insanium gemstone blocks and 4 Insanium blocks with a master. So you have to, at this point, have already made a master infusion crystal. If you don't know how to make that, it's 4 Insanium essence with 4 prosperity shards surrounding a supremium infusion crystal. That's how you can get your master infusion crystal. So let's go ahead and talk about this while I already have everything I need right here. I want to talk about how you can actually make that stuff. So the Insanium gemstone blocks, very simple. You need prosperity gemstones. To make prosperity gemstones, very simple. I mean, you diamond with 4 prosperity shards. This is stuff that you can get very early on, early game. I wouldn't recommend saving these because you're going to need them throughout the duration of what you're doing with mystical agriculture. But once you get to the point to where you're creating your creative essence, you should have enough material to be able to make the, you need 4 of these, which is 90, which is 36 Insanium gemstones. So you should be fine to make that. Then your Insanium essence, or your Insanium blocks, is just 9 Insanium essence. That's 36 of these. So, I mean, another way you can do it is making Supremium blocks and then putting them around a Master Infusion Crystal, and that also gives you an Insanium block. But once you make that stuff, again, very simple. You just grab these out of here, come back in here, and then you do that with your Master Infusion Crystal in the middle, and then now you have your creative essence. So 2 out of the however many of these items, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I will say 9 because I'm not going to include the Patrick Star. 2 out of the 9. So we've already done 2 out of the 9, and it's been 16 minutes. So let's talk about some of the more difficult ones. So the Dimensional Seed, this is for, again, this is primarily for if you are going to be, if you're debating on playing and actually starting a world specifically to go for the ATM star. So I'm not going to do all 9 of these in one video because I mean, I can't. I don't have enough resources to create another Dimensional Seed, and I probably don't have the resources to create another Wither Compass. I might have enough resources to create another gravitational or pulsating black hole, but I'm going to do that in its own video because there's a lot of steps you have to do with that. But the ones like the improbable probability device, they're pretty simple to make once you have the resources available to make it. So for instance, you need the 1048 storage component. If I come back in here and do 1048 storage component, how much do I need for this? That's not difficult. So I just need 168,000 sand and 13,000 slime, which neither of these would be very difficult to get. But if you're early game or you're debating on starting and then you're seeing all these creators who are playing this complain or getting a ridiculous amount of resources, that's the idea. That's the point of these next few videos, is to kind of talk about what to do early game, what I wish I would have done early game. Preferably because, I mean, I could have already been done with this if I had started doing this and if I actually like listened to somebody say, hey, you just started, start focusing on this, this, and this, and this is how you can do it. Rather than just saying, start focusing on this, this, and this, and then just like go watch videos of it. And then you have to like find the videos, and it does get a little challenging to find good videos that explain these types of things. So let's talk a little bit about what you should do early game as a newer ATM player. This, again, very small demographic of people who might be getting into All the Mods 8. All the Mods 9 is out. Would definitely recommend you go play that over this. But this one, if you're wanting to start with a lower number and you decide to do 8 out of just randomness, this is probably the easiest video to watch because I'm an idiot and I'm very new to this as well. And I think if I can provide some type of information and some type of assurance to people that they'll have a better job kind of understanding it. So first thing I would like to talk about is all of this. I want to talk about the fusion reactor. So very early game, if your end goal is to make the ATM star, some of the first things you should do is get into mechanism. Not just the idea of the ore duplication process, because of course ore duplicating is incredibly useful because it'll allow you to significantly duplicate your ores from 1 ore to 5 ingots. But mostly because after you finish this aspect and kind of get to the point to where you've made a rotary condensator, you've made your all of your chemical infusers, your chemical injection chambers, things like that. You can then move into your advanced mechanism tab and start working on building an actual reactor. Now, this is not as difficult as it sounds. Yes, it is very resource heavy. It is going to require a ridiculous amount of reactor casings, a ridiculous amount of reactor glass. It's going to require a ridiculous amount of resources to be able to build your reactor out. I began my reactor at the very bare minimum, which was basically this size right here, which I think was a 7x7 or a 5x5 or something like that. And now I've been able to expand it out because I've been able to collect as many resources as possible. So obviously your early game is not going to look like this. This is I think one of the biggest you can make it. I don't remember the exact size because I don't want to count it either because that would take too long. But if you make one of these, you're absolutely going to have to make a turbine. So be mindful of when you're creating your fission reactor, when you're setting this up, that you're matching it with the turbine that you have enough resources to make, or vice versa. If you're building a turbine, make sure you match it to the reactor you currently or will have in the near future. So another big piece that I would recommend is creating an induction matrix. So the induction matrix is actually this side of things. It's very useful for storing and transmitting power with these cubes in the middle. And obviously you can see I have 9.6 TFE stored in there, and I can output a lot more than that. I don't, because I'd have this burning at a 5 MB per tick, which we'll get into that in a second. But the reason I mentioned mechanism is because you're going to need to have all of these. These are basically required for your fissile fuel. So you're going to have your rotary condensator. You're going to have a chemical oxidizer, a chemical infuser, a chemical dissolution chamber, another chemical infuser, a chemical oxidizer, and an enrichment chamber to be able to create the end product, which is your uranium hexafluoride, which will then be used in this isotopic centrifuge to turn into fissile fuel, which you can see I have maxed out these pipes. Both of these are full on both ends. And this is probably the easiest way, not the easiest way you can set it up, but this is probably one of the cleaner ways you can set it up, vice what I have over there. So if you've never seen any of my videos, this is the first one you've watched, this is actually what I started off with. This is unnecessary. All of this right here was practically just so I can grab the brine, move it over into this one to create lithium to then send it through. But that is a completely separate subject whenever you get into the actual fusion reactor over here, which is a lot more confusing to me than I'd like to admit. So the reason why you want to build this early game, start collecting as much of the nuclear waste as you can in your pipes and your chemical tanks, is because once you get to the point to where you basically have enough, you need to push it through a solar neutron activator. This will take your nuclear waste and turn it into polonium, either a polonium, basically it'll turn it into polonium liquid, or I guess gas. And you have to do two separate things here. You have to turn your polonium as well as plutonium, which is a completely separate subject, which is not going to be covered in this video. But your polonium, you're going to have to turn that through a pressurized reaction chamber to create polonium pellets. And you'll have to do that to create the end-all, which is this bad boy right here, the SPS, or supercritical phase shifter. And of course, this requires a lot of resources. And the reason you have to do this is because you have to send this polonium then through to your supercritical phase SPS, and that creates antimatter of some sort right here. And then you basically put it into a chemical crystallizer, and that actually turns it into antimatter pellets. And this entire process took me 100 and almost like 60 videos to do, with the videos being anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, even somewhere up to 50 minutes at times. This entire thing could have been avoided and sped up significantly if I had built one of these earlier on and not been afraid, because you might see, and this is something that I figured out and I had to kind of think about going into creating the fission reactor, this thing can explode. So when you look inside of it, you'll have a temperature gauge here, you'll have your fuel tank here, and your coolant tank here. If you have a industrial turbine matching and basically matching not the exact dimensions of your reactor, but basically bigger than your reactor, and you have it set to pull the water from all of the vents above, as well as a bunch of like different water sources around. Yes, you can use multiple fission reactor ports to pull water in. Just an FYI. You should be fine with the coolant. The fuel tank is what you have to worry about with all of this right here. Now, of course, this side over here absolutely has a lot more resources associated with it. I have all this uranium being pumped through. This is actually pulling uranium ores from my network. This is pulling sulfur dust, pushing it through and doing the same thing with the sulfuric acid. But that's besides the point. So building the fission reactor early game is absolutely I'm not going to say a must, because there's two things that you will benefit from with a fission reactor. One, it's pretty good power if you aren't using a lot of resources. Like if you're not using a lot of power, this can be pretty decent power. Especially if, like, for instance, in this case, I can bump this up to like 160. You'll see that my coolant tank doesn't go down, my fuel tank doesn't go down, but you'll see this speeds up, and now this is basically pushing a bunch of steam, and this is, producing 12.79 MFE per tick, which is 12.79 million FE per tick, which means that all of that power is being pushed into our induction chamber here, which is basically inputting 12.79 MFE per tick. But basically, if you have it going and you have enough resources to fuel this thing, and you have enough coolant coming through, which there are other coolants, I think sodium is another coolant, if I'm not mistaken, and it kind of explains it. Sodium can also be used as a much more efficient coolant. This allows for higher burn rates and lower core temperatures, which that's a whole different story. I haven't actually touched that because I haven't needed to, but we're going to push this back down to 5. But basically, if you're pushing that out, I mean, you can get a ridiculous amount. Like right here, I only have a 5 burn rate, and it's pushing about 400. Let's see where it's stables at. Yeah, 400. Anywhere between 390 and 400,000 FE per tick. So that's producing still a lot of energy. And that's enough energy for a newer player who, granted, you're not going to build one this big. If you build one this big, you're insane. But this is absolutely an early game must, is building the fission reactor and the turbine. The SPS, the induction matrix, not as important, but just be mindful that however big you build your turbine, if it steams up too much, it'll stop sending coolant to your reactor, so you would need to make sure you have enough coolant being produced into your reactor, not including your turbine. So basically have your turbine as like a backup just in case. So we'll go back to our up top side. Another thing that is probably critical to do early game, and I've kind of explained this in my All the Mods 9 series of why I wanted to do it that way, is getting to the mining dimension. So the mining dimension is critical for getting a ridiculous amount of resources and having an entirely flat land to build on. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get here so quickly in All the Mods 9. It took me, I think I looked at it yesterday on the video that I posted up yesterday. If I go back into my videos and I go to mining dimension and I look, my mining dimension episode was episode 43 on All the Mods 8, but 19 on All the Mods 9. So I saved just over 20, about 24 episodes of 30 minutes apiece by getting to the mining dimension sooner. Now, of course, it's going to take me time to collect a lot of material, but regardless of the fact. So early game, if you're dead set on building the ATM star, I would absolutely recommend these 3 major key factors. Key factor number 1, get to the mining dimension as quickly as you can. Yes, that means that you need to get some allomodium. You basically just need 1 allomodium ingot to get to the mining dimension. So what you'll do is when you get your allomodium, is you will turn those into nuggets, and then you'll plop 4 nuggets down like this around an ender pearl. Getting an ender pearl in all the mods is really not that difficult. They're spread out in a lot of different chests and things like that, so don't worry too much about that. But once you get the teleport pad, you use it. Make sure that you don't have a shield or anything in your left hand or right hand or whatever. Make sure your hands are empty. Both hands are empty. And then I'm gonna put this out because that's annoying. So step number 1 is getting to the mining dimension. Step number 2 is building the fission reactor. Building some, well, I guess early game, building some sort of power structure. There is this section right here, basic power, that has basically 3 separate areas that I think would be beneficial. Your early game power options, which is your coal generator, your heat generator, and your solar panels, and then your mid game power options. But this right here comes a little bit later. This will actually take you to bigger reactors, which is your mechanism. Your mid game is basically your bigger reactors for power. So if you, well, no, bigger reactors right here. So these are actually, these are a little bit different. And if this is your first video of mine, I will show you these 2 right here and why they are beneficial to have, but they're not really going to do any good for you. But let's go back to our basic power. And then, of course, you have your mechanism gas burning generator, which, of course, mechanism has its own like power structure. So let's go back to our overworld base. And I will show anybody who hasn't actually seen it. So this right here is one of the bigger reactors. This does provide a significant amount of power. This provided enough power for me early game to have pretty much everything I needed until I needed more. It takes uranium ingots and it pops out these cyanide ingots, which you can then throw into a cyanide reprocessor, which turns them into plutonium ingots, which I really haven't figured out what to do with plutonium. That's not something that I feel like I would be a good person to kind of talk to about, but yeah. Then the other thing that is pretty much, I think I actually moved it. Early game, it's really not important to have compact machines, but they can be pretty useful early game. But let's go back to our base here because here we go. The other part of that bigger reactor section is a turbine. So let's do, I think it's this one right here. Yep. Let's go in here, and this will show you the 2 different pieces. So this is your bigger reactor, your actual reactor. And then you see I have some mechanism or some power stuff up there. And this is a turbine for this. You can build this bigger. I just built it this way because I had no idea what I was doing. And I genuinely, I could rebuild this. That's off-centered and it's going to drive me insane. So I'm not going to worry about it. But these 2 right here work hand in hand. And this is very similar to the mechanism's industrial turbine. It basically just spins around, does the circles, and it pushes out steam to provide the power to your, base. So you can see right here, it can push out a certain amount of steam, pulls in a certain amount of water, and then this is basically the charge. So I can actually turn this offline and turn the coils offline. But for these, you actually need these coils around, which can be a variety of different types of blocks. And that gets explained in the bigger reactors section right here, down here at the bottom. But you can see that you can put them up there, you can put them down at the bottom. But this is basically just the simplistic version of the mechanism reactor. So let's head back, and then, so that's the second thing that you'll need is some sort of power generation. And then the third thing you're going to really need to do is start planting your mystical gardens. Now, this is going to be critical because early game, you're not going to have a lot of Inferium. You're not going to have a lot of seeds to be able to do. Start off with just planting, just emptying out a 9x9 little spot, planting as many Inferium seeds as you can, and letting them grow. So if we go here to Inferium, I have 21,000. And I have 56,000 Inferium seeds. I plant those around, let them grow, and then I basically put what is called a harvester pylon in the bottom right here. And I'll show you right here, harvester pylon. This is the harvester pylon. It's very, I think I explained it in my last video as well. Very resource easy to make. 3 quartz slab, 2 iron bars, hay bale, 3 polished blackstone. Then all you have to do is basically just turn it, set it in water, turn it to 9x9 and on, and put a hoe in the middle. The hoe, of course, just remember this. The hoe will use durability. If you have enough aldomodium, I would recommend making an aldomodium hoe. Now, once you create more of these, you will need more harvester pylons for those. But the reason you want to create those is so you can get to the point to where you're able to make uranium seeds. And this uranium seeds, as well as, I don't know if it's actually in here, but sulfur seeds. So you want uranium seeds because the uranium is what is going to be used to fuel into your fusion or your fission reactor, and the sulfur as well, because I mean I have a complete sulfur and a complete uranium one downstairs, and I have 234,000 sulfur essence, which means I can make it ridiculous. But I also have 44,000 sulfur that needs to get crushed down. But regardless, that's pretty much my recommendation for anybody that is getting into this early game. If you're debating, if you are hard set on creating the ATM star, the 3 things you need to do very early game. Step number 1, get to the mining dimension as quickly as you can. Step number 2, build a good power resource. Start with the bigger reactors, and then grow from there if you have to. But I would absolutely recommend starting with the mechanism fission reactor, because you'll need the fission reactor to create the fissile fuel, to create the polonium, to create the antimatter pellets, which you need for 2, if I'm not mistaken, 2 of the actual ATM star items. So yes, in your ATM star, you need actually 3, because you need antimatter here for the pulsating black hole. You need antimatter here, not here. I know you need antimatter in this one. You need 12 antimatter for the wither compass, because you need 3 per gravitational modulating unit. And I think 1 more for one of these, whichever one of these, I don't know. You're going to need, I think actually only 13. Hold on, let me make sure. To make the star, you'll need a total of 11 pieces of antimatter, which is not true. You actually need 13, because you need 12 for the wither compass alone. No, 9. It is 11. Bad math. So you'll need 11. So you need 11 total antimatter pellets, and they can take very long to make, but also get aldomodium, get vibranium, get unobtainium, send them through your ore processing. Again, you're going to have to learn how to do the ore processing if you're going through the mechanism chart here. It turns 1 ore into 5. Like, you send the ore through, and then all of a sudden you have one aldomodium ore that turns into 5 aldomodium ingots. That's just what I'm saying. But hopefully this made sense to everybody. This entire process takes a very long time. Alfred GG, who was one of the ones who worked on the mod pack, I don't remember what he did exactly, but he actually did a speed run for creating the ATM star. I can't remember the exact time he had, but I can tell you that is not a normal thing for people to do. He knows like the back shortcuts for everything. It's kind of like, hold up a minute. So I think in the next video, I will go through a couple other pieces, since we built 2 here. We built I'm actually going to put done on here whenever on the top one line. So we created the creative essence, and we created the Oblivion shard. So now I might do the Nexium. I think I'm going to do the Nexium emitter, which is this one right here, which is actually pretty simple to make, but it does take some lessons in applied energistics. And I feel like applied energistics is still one of the ones that I am very much not 100% on, but I would love to work together with you guys in it, because applied energistics is it's a very, very useful resource that is utilized in a lot of other mod packs. So absolutely would recommend, if you are getting into any type of mod packs, learn, even if you're not building a complete applied energistics setup, if you're just focusing on refined storage, learn as much as you can about applied energistics, because some mod packs don't offer refined storage. And And that's another thing too with refined storage. Make sure you guys are planning the process for building your in-game storage capacity, because I have 4096K storage disks here that are practically almost full, and I have a 262 million storage disk. And just so you're aware, that's the amount of items that each storage disk can hold. I'm only at 7%, but that's still a lot of items, because 20 million items, that is ridiculous to think about. Wow. But yeah, so hopefully this all makes sense. And those two being the easiest two to make, other than the Patrick Star, which I'm not really going to cover in this, because it's just, it's, if you're curious about how to make the Patrick Star, I mean, it's just creating these mechanical crafters, getting some concrete and concrete powder, and then putting them in the order that they need to be on based on this. And the best way to do that is to take a screenshot of how this looks, write down how many you need for each color. So like you'll write down, you need a certain amount of magenta you'll need a certain amount of magenta concrete and a certain amount of magenta concrete powder. Then you'll need to write down how much pink concrete powder and pink concrete you'll need. And then green concrete powder, lime concrete, because I think you only need 2 lime concretes. But the point being, this is probably one of the easier ones to make. Is getting concrete powder really isn't that difficult. But once we start getting into the big ones, like the wither compass, the dimensional seed, those are probably the more challenging ones to make. The dragon or the philosopher's fuel. So here, yeah, right here, antimatter pellet. I think I already said that. So 3 for that, 1 for that. Yeah, the philosopher's fuel really is not that difficult. You just have to get into doing some elemental craft. And you will need to already have done a significant amount in your mystical agriculture, which I think in the next one as well, I'll kind of go through how to make this one as well. So I'll probably do the philosopher's fuel and the Nexium emitter in the next one. And then in the one after that, I will likely focus on maybe maybe I'll do the wither compass in the next one, because I think the wither compass is going to take an entire episode, just an entire hour, just because of the fact that it's just, you have to wait for the antimatter to finish. But now let's take a look at our nether star, see where we're at, because since I've been just talking, so we can make another one. So we can make another 3-star or 3 times compressed. This is why it takes so long. And I could easily just run down to the wither little spawning area I'd made, but it would just, it's not, I don't get enough out of that, and I have to wait so long for all of the withers to be built. So now we are 4 away, which means we are only 5,000. Wait, no, that's not right. 25,042 away from finishing our ATM star, which is insane, which I think we'll have this done before episode 200, because this right here is episode 194. So I think by episode 196 or 197, we'll have the ATM star finished, which is huge accomplishment for me, because I was like, I'm not going to have this done until like episode 300 or something. But yeah, I guess, I'm trying to get these videos to go for an hour or so, at least, because I have a limit. I basically, as I mentioned in the last video, we did change our upload schedule to 1 video a day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then 2 videos on Saturday and 2 videos on Sunday. I'm going to focus on doing the last few videos here on All the Mods 8 first, and then once I finish the first ATM star, and once I start working on the second one, I might actually go for creating an ATM block, ATM star block, which, if you're not familiar, it's basically this bad boy right here, which is 9 ATM stars. I might work on that, but that's not going to be a commons video upload that I'll do, because I have to have a lot of resources for that. And that's, yeah. Once we finish this first ATM star right here, I will focus, and I will only be uploading ATM 9 or All the Mods 9 until basically further notice, because I want to do a lot more with, I want to do a lot more with that series. So yeah, I guess what I'll do here is actually, I talked about the Oblivion. So that's another thing. When you create your reactors, I'm just going to chat while we wait, while I let the time kind of go up. When you create your reactors, and I want to show you guys this real quick. If I were to come back down here to our fission reactor and plop this up to 160 MB per tick burn rate, and then basically do this right here. Let's see. And then do this. Actually, I need these. And do 2 of these. And then now we can do this right here. This will basically say 100% because it's working. But I think by the time I get up there, it'll be done. If you remember, okay, so they're not done yet, but okay. Wow, this one is actually, these are all out of power. Wow. This one's not though, because this one, I think this one's still good. No, this one's done. Because I think this one's pulling directly. Oh, it's pulling out of a, that's weird. But yeah, so a couple things to note about these, about doing the energizing rods for the Oblivion alloy blocks, for the unobtainium, Oblivion, and unobtainium, vibranium alloy blocks. Build out as much as you can in power, not as quickly as you can, but just as I guess as quick as you can. The reason I say that is because it'll allow you an opportunity to be able to finish creating all of your ingots and for the blocks as quickly as possible, because you're going to need 25. You need 28 of these blocks, which means you're going to need, if you do the math, 28 times 9 is a lot more than I can count. You're going to need a lot of these blocks. So just be prepared. You're going to need a lot of Oblivion. You're going to need a lot of unobtainium. You're not going to need as much vibranium, but it will be beneficial to have, especially if you want to set up the set up your tools to be the actual alloy. Yeah, tools. Those are pretty beneficial. So I guess in the next video, we will talk and we will kind of focus on building out the, I think that's a Nexium emitter. So yeah, we'll focus on building out the Nexium emitter, which is that bad boy right there. The Nexium emitter is pretty simple. Go ahead and do this, and then I'll plop all of these in here just so that I can start the process off like as soon as I start the video up. But it's pretty simple. Really, like once you actually build it the first time, you'll kind of get a better understanding for it. And I think once we actually finish building it in this next one, you'll have a better understanding of how to actually build it out and get all the resources for the piece, for that single array. Yeah. Needless to say, there is a lot that you have to do for this star. And I wish I could count, but I'm too lazy, how many individual resources you would need, and basically just a total number of resources that you need just for this one star. And that includes the crafters from Create. Because without the crafters from Create, you will not be able to build the ATM star. That's crazy, right? Like that's just the crafters from Create. I would say should be the crafter, the mechanical crafter should be one of the first things you build. Really not that important until you get more of the resources, because you only have to use it twice. You don't have to use this to create any other parts other than the Patrick star and the ATM star. So you could technically get literally every single other item and all the resources to make the Patrick star, put them all in chests, and then build out your ATM, build out your crafters to be the star, put all your concrete in, let it build your Patrick star, and then just fill in based on what the image on the, basically how it tells you to fill it in right here. So once you do that, you're pretty much set. So the crafter's not a necessity early game. but they could be useful early game if you are into create. I'm personally not into create. I haven't really ever dealt much with create. So yeah. Oh, cool. So we went over quite a few things today. Really the idea of just kind of getting anybody who is new to all the mods 8 or anybody that is jumping into it like I did without really understanding what they're getting themselves into. If I had actually watched videos or watched a series on it and kind of got somebody else's opinion on it, I would absolutely say go for it. Or if you're an ATM 8 player, if you have an ATM 8 or ATM 9 world, but you're just super hesitant on building the ATM star, just go for it. I mean, the only thing you're doing is utilizing a ridiculous amount of resources, but you'll collect those resources back, especially if you do a variety of the things that I mentioned. Another big piece that would be beneficial for any newer player is to build out the Chunk Destroyer as quickly as you can. The Chunk Destroyer, you just need a Workbench Plus, which the Workbench is pretty simple to make. You need 3 Allthemodium Nuggets, you need 2 gold blocks, 1 diamond block, and 3 iron blocks. You create your Workbench Plus, and then, of course, you create your Chunk Destroyer. Now, your Chunk Destroyer, obviously, you have to use the Workbench Plus to create your Quarry Pluses. It's a little resource heavy because you need a stack and a half of diamonds, gold ingots, 3 stacks of iron ingots. I want to say 64. You'll need 3 stacks of 16 redstone and 12 ender pearls. I don't want to do the math because the Chunk Destroyer requires 3 Quarry Pluses, but then you also have your pump modules, which are pretty simple to make. You just need a couple stacks, a couple different things. The glass was probably the hardest part for me when I was building this, but after I built it, I just look back at it, I'm like, oh, cool. But you will need a dragon's head. So by the time you get to the Chunk Destroyer, building the Chunk Destroyer, you will have to have beaten the dragon. You can build as many as you want because I'm pretty sure there are I'm not going to say an indefinite amount, but I think there is a way to, yeah, you can actually make a dragon's head with generalized ender predictions, dragon's breath, and an ender dragon prediction, or dragon egg essence and a blank skull. Blank skull is just bone block and soul dust. So you can technically, after you do that a couple times, you can technically create a dragon heads whenever you want them. You don't have to go to the end to find them on ships anymore. But I think that's pretty much going to do it for this video. So again, I'm going to be focusing on the development and the more of the noob friendly educational aspect of building the ATM star, because I wish I would have had a little bit more of a noob friendly type of environment. Not really. I'll be frank, like doing the Nature's Aura stuff, doing, the Evil Craft stuff, and doing all these different things. A lot of the times I had to watch multiple videos from multiple creators to be able to piece everything together. Being able to see somebody, or if I had the opportunity to be able to see somebody create something in a specific manner and basically show me how to do it, it would have made it a lot easier for me. Like, I think the only thing I didn't really show was creating the soul steel blocks. But you just put 4 compressed soul powder blocks right there, and then a soul sand block one-time compressed right there, and you light the soul sand on fire and throw a block of iron in there. But that's pretty much like, that's the idea. I wish I would have had somebody kind of guiding me, not showing me exactly, like not like making it easier for me or anything, because at the end of the day, they have resources that I may not have. But once we get to like the Nexium emitter, where we're having to build like full-on nukes, or the improbable probability device, we're having to build full-on nukes, that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge. And I had to watch multiple creators kind of go through the different methods and show me how to actually create these things, like more efficiently. For the Philosopher's Fuel, I had to really kind of get an understanding of what this was and why. Like, what do I have to do with this? Like, what is a fusion controller? Where do I get cesium or Kessium? Where do I get europium? Like, things like that. So, of course, there are other ways to do about it, and I'll show both methods whenever I get to doing the actual Philosopher's Fuel. But the next video, we're going to focus on the Nexium emitter. I'll show you how to make the singularity. I'll show you how to do a Tesla coil. I'll show you how to make a supercharged coil. You, of course, need polonium pellets, which, of course, I will show you how to... I will show anybody new my effective way of doing it. Because, of course, my effective way is not going to be the same as somebody else's effective way. Somebody else can do it and be like, I'm done with this in like a heartbeat. Well, that doesn't help people who have no idea what they're doing in this game. So being able to show people the generalized way of how to properly do something kind of step by step without holding their hand too much, I feel is a potential benefit that would help people who are new to the game or who are new to all the mods. Because again, I, for one, struggled immensely. And I will also show a variety of other ways of resource collecting and things like that. Kind of what I've learned over, I guess the next like 5 or 6 videos are going to be me going over the ATM star, the ingredients of the ATM star, but also recapping on the things that I have learned so that I can potentially hopefully help other new players jumping into ATM 8 or future all the mods versions. And I'll do the exact same thing at the end after I build whatever star I build in ATM 9. I will go back and I will recap what I've learned over the course of the past however many videos. And I'll kind of explain simplistic ways of being able to efficiently build out and collect the resources that are required for this star. So with all that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you guys. I mean, you guys have, if you've stuck through and watched all 190 freaking million of these videos, thank you. Without your guys' support, without your guys' push, I probably would not have continued. Of course, I did, lower my upload schedule, and I do apologize for that. And I really hope that doesn't, make anybody think that I'm just trying to be lazy and not trying to record as many videos multiple times throughout the day. I'm trying to look after my own mental health and well-being while also providing content for you guys still, because I really enjoy doing this. I really enjoy reading your guys' comments. I really enjoy replying to you guys, having conversations with you guys in Discord. So if you're not already in the Discord, join the Discord. Lately, I've been talking to myself, and it's really depressing. But also, I truly and genuinely appreciate everybody who has continuously supported me. Starting the next video, I'm likely going to build a wall of probably just like a simple wooden, oak wood log wall, right here. And I'm going to put I'm going to have a bunch of names put on there for all the people that I've continuously replied to comment wise, for the people who have continuously shown up throughout the series. And that will continue to grow as we move forward. So the more names I see pop in, the more supporters that show up, I'm genuinely I'm going to throw your name on this new wall that's going to be built. So, because I want to show my appreciation to the people out there who have continued to push me to continue to make these videos, because without you guys, I wouldn't have continued. Thank you. So hopefully we can continue kind of working through the next couple of videos and get done with this stupid star. We need 4 more Nether Star blocks, and then we will be finished. And I'm so excited about that. And with that being said, remember to hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't enjoy the video, leave a comment down below letting me know what I could do better to make these videos more enjoyable for you guys, more entertaining for you guys. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe. It is a free way of showing your support to the community, free way of showing your support to the channel. It's also a way to help us get to that 250 subscriber goal that we have for April 21st, as well as that 1,000 subscriber goal that we have by the end of the year. If you're new to the channel and you're not entirely sure why I'm aiming for 1,000 subscribers at the end of the year, well, it's because at the end of the year, up to 1,000, I'll be donating the dollar amount for however many subs we have to a charity that the community votes on. And the votes at any point, nonprofit charity organizations that are legitimate can at any point be provided so that we can just basically say, hey, okay, here's a list of charities, vote. So if you have a charity in mind that you would love to see us donate to at the end of the year, leave it down in the comments, leave it in the description, or leave it in Discord. I don't really mind, as long as it is legitimate charity organization, nonprofit charity organization that has a legitimate cause. So thank you guys again so very much for watching. I am tired, so I'm going to go to bed. I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.